Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It's our last episode of the month of June 2024.
It's last Pride Month episode, Nick.
That's true. Yeah.
So you have to treat me with respect.
I feel as if that implies something very bad about me,
Nick, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get another jar of olives. So I'm going to eat them on air, and you have to applaud me every time I do. Because that's some gay shit.
I don't know if that...
Yeah, what are you going to do now, Nick, huh?
You have put me into a position where you're pressuring me to tell you what does and doesn't qualify for Pride Month, and I realize that I'm in a catch-22 now, and I don't like it.
Done and done. I'm going to go get my olives. I'll be right back now. I'm not going to do that. I truly don't remember what happened last episode. I know I got a jar of olives and I ate them, and I think I was really mean to the creator of Astro Royale. Those are the only things I really remember. Upon reading the manga this week, I was like, wait, did we talk about that they had a little kid piss himself in the last chapter of New Exorcist? That's like a running theme now in the series, is children urinating?
We didn't talk about that at all.
Okay.
We were kind of just like, moving through it by that point.
We're moving through. Anyway, it's a weird world we live in. So, but yeah, last June. Have you had a good June?
It's been a weird June. Like people at work getting COVID, other stuff as well that is a bit more personal than that, kind of happening, that I have told you about, but I don't really want to talk about on here. And
you got infected with the kaiju virus, and you become kaiju number 8 now. Yeah, I think people can know.
I feel like people understand that my mouth can, in fact, open across all the way to the back of my head.
And you do urinate out of your nipples. I was with you at MagFest, so I know this for a fact.
There were so many early details of kaiju that I forgot, because I started watching the anime with Nicole, with my wife, and we're having a great time watching it. It's good because the series is at the point now where this Kafka secret is revealed, so it's like, hey, we just went through like the best early stretch that the series has. But yeah, totally forgot about the weird body humor that happens at various points, especially early on in the series. So when the pee started coming out of the nipples, I was like, oh yeah, I guess that did happen, right?
Oh, right. Just wait for it to be a plot point. Wait for a bad guy to get really close to him, like about to bite him, and he's just like, squirt! Just squirts. Yeah, just squirts a little spray. It's like, oh, kaiju number 9, gross.
It's like Joker's acid flower, too. It's like, caustic nipple fluid.
I mean, Nick, urine is a kind of acid when you think about it.
It is.
Yeah.
Technically, yes.
So that might have been what the acid dimension in Naruto was really full of.
Oh, God.
And you're like, oh, Kaguya is just a pervert. She's just a weird little gremlin.
She didn't take them to the dimension of acid. She took them to the dimension of breast milk. Male kaiju did.
Oh, God. Yeah. I like the idea that's why she didn't stay in the realm that would have instantly killed them, because she was embarrassed. She's like, you weren't supposed to see this one.
Oh, God. If they're gonna find out about my horrible fetish.
Yeah. That was a glitch. So sometimes chakra things get mixed up. So, that just happens. Let's not talk about it, though. You guys are cool, right? Like, you guys are definitely, like, kind of a thing. So, like, I assume you're a little open-minded, right?
Wait, what are you talking about? You guys, like, you're a throuple, right?
Yeah. I can see into the future. When you guys both lose your arms, your blood will connect together and create a heart. Like, I don't know. It just seems like cosmically the world's trying to suggest something about the two of you. No, we kissed once, and then we were like both like, ew, gross. Oh, we lost Nick for a sec.
And then we got locked in a way that, we are, things are happening to Nick's computer.
You were talking about the locket. I get what I was picking up what you were putting down.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what is happening to my computer. I can't see anything on my monitor.
Oh no. Well, that's not too bad because I am starting off this week's recap, a weekly manga recap, by talking about Undead Unluck. This is number 211, Unchased. So we open this chapter in a flashback to the previous loop when Fuko was sort of being held prisoner by Under, and she had met Karuru for the first time. So this is an unspecified day in that previous loop. And it's Karuru basically lamenting that Unchased has too narrow of a range because it doesn't work on like Latla or Mr. Rip because those are two people of someone that they really, really like. And it also doesn't work on people who have never been in love. So, of course, Latla is like, shut the fuck up. Don't you tell anybody about this. It doesn't seem to work on Bunny because she already kind of just likes Karuru. And she notes that the only members of our group that it works on is Mr. Tella and Engine, basically.
She specifically says, "I like Kururu, a goo," which made me go, "I'm not looking forward to this character coming back."
Actually, I need to correct myself. It is not Engine. It's just Tella. And I guess Engine is such a good cook boy that even he's like, huh? What? Like, I don't understand. So, it's then noted, like, okay, well, if that's the understanding, then that must mean that there's somebody you love, Fuko. And immediately they're like, Undead. Like,
yeah. It's Andy. Obviously Andy. Come on.
Yeah. So we cut to another flashback, this one more recent, where Fuko has specifically chosen these four to work with her against Karuru for a reason. Billy, Shen, and Rip all are in relationships. They all love somebody. Specifically, two of them are married. And one of them has a child. Tella is just a bachelor, has no girlfriend, and is like, why me? And they're like, well, your ability will actually be pretty useful for detecting when Unchased has kind of activated. So even though you potentially might be susceptible to it, you're like also the best line of defense, kind of alarm system for it. So we cut to the present. It's the first round of the semifinals. It's Karuru, or Kurusu, I guess as her stage name goes, against somebody who it doesn't matter. I don't even think we ever actually see them. So Kurusu gets on stage. Let's make some noise. And we see Fuko's mom is just like, wait a minute. That person is not the Karuru I know. And we see Karuru get on stage. She immediately gets up into a rock position and she starts death metal screaming into it. Her Unchased ability activates, and we see Sean's like, wait, did she always lean this hard into death metal? And suddenly in that moment, all of the guy members of Unison leave. They just fucking rush off stage basically to join with Kurusu and start playing cool metal songs for her. And Sean's like, wait, that means it's already manifested. Even worse, our guys abandoned us for Karuru. And she's like, I didn't think it was supposed to work on them. Cut over to Soul, who's explaining that Karuru's abilities have evolved because of the use of Soul. Basically, he shared with her the power on how to enhance her abilities, and she has become an even more brutal opponent than the last loop. It has evolved. So now the use of souls is working against everybody, essentially. It's, finally the shoe is on the other foot.
Yeah, this is a fantastic, proper introduction to new Karuru, because who wouldn't, honestly, make this decision?
Absolutely. She's very, very cool. She rules. Hold on a second, guys. Sorry. So obviously Fuko's mom is just like, hey, guys, what's going on? We worked really hard together. What about the finals? And they stop her. They're like, don't come any closer. Karuru's concentrating. We won't allow you to disturb her. But Karuru comes up and it's just like, it's been a long time since we've been on the same ticket, hasn't it? And finally, I get to fight you. Because up until now, I've always wanted to know is what you have that I don't. I have that thing now. I'm done losing, and I'm going to prove that to you in the final. And Fuko's mom is just like, what do you mean that you're done losing? She's like, you haven't got it yet. Whatever. Catch you later. That's just like you. And in this moment, Move opens up, and Rip and Billy's significant others come through Move and just like elbow drop them into the ground, basically. Like Latla comes through the portal and immediately like knee drops Rip's face into the ground, and Billy's wife comes in with their child, by the way, just like comes along, and she has a gun pointed at the back of his head. Also Mui has also come, and they're just like, hey, why are you falling under her unchaste? This better not means what I think it means. Like, our wedding vows a fucking joke to you. And Fuko comes in and is just like, hey, wait a second, guys. I do love that there is a very quick joke to one of the scientists looking over to Move and is like, you're really cooperative today. Like, you didn't have to do that. And Move just says, I did it because it was funny. Like, it's just straight up just like, I thought it would stir some shit up and I enjoy that. Fuko comes up and is like, hey, you guys, answer me a question real quick. Where was the place where you two first met Kururu? And Rip answers, oh, France, in her yard. And Billy answers, on the battlefield as an opposing merc. And they're both very happy at one point. Like, the women are very happy. They're like, oh, they remember where they met me. And we see Shen also say, oh, I met him at Karuru's family restaurant in China. And they're like, wait, what's going on? What is unchaste? So they're like piecing it together at this point, and they're like, I think this means that it's now negating the memories they have with their loved ones and replacing it with Karuru. So it's basically rewriting sort of their history to make Karuru the one that they've always been in love with. So Fuko's like, crap, this means the counters from before won't really work. And, Fuko's mom comes in and she's just like, hey, that performance wasn't like Karuru at all. So something has to have happened, right? In that case, please leave this to me. I also they don't really address it, but it does make you wonder, like, does Rip, because Ted or Alive brought this up in the chat, does Rip think he married two Karurus? Like, he has two wives, so theoretically he should believe that he has two relationships. So they're like, all right, if they go to the finals and my father ends up seeing Miss Karuru sing, his feelings for Miss Cade will be stolen by Miss Karuru. Like, this could be really, really bad. And if that happens, neither of them will ever... And Fuko's mom just says, don't worry. I'm an idol. And she's very confident. She's like the fiery aura, like storming up from her. She says, I won't lose to Karuru. And Lala just knows. She's like, hey, Fuko, your fading is kind of disappearing, isn't it? And it is, at this point, sort of disappearing a little bit. So they know, all right, there's confidence to be had. It's Starline Festival's grand finale. We see that Fuko's dad isn't there. He's still in his room. He is smoking up a storm, but we can see an unseen figure there. We can see that it's Sean, who is looking on, kind of investigating to some extent all of this. And it's just like, all right, he's going to play some part. Hold on one sec. I'm troubleshooting with Nick at the moment. Sorry about that. So we get this final showdown, essentially, where we see the two teams coming out onto the stage. Obviously, Karuru now has the boy members of Unison, and they're all in their rock uniforms. They're all looking very cool. But basically, Fuko, Julia, and Latla and Mui have joined Fuko's mom to join up there. So it's going to be the ladies versus the boys. It's going to be a very useful, emotional thing. And I am going to be covering up our screens because I think Nick's going to be dropping from this call in a quick moment. So I'm going to mentally prepare. I think he's doing a restart. So it might be a little bit before Nick comes in. So I am going to try to carry along solo for a little bit. It's a little exciting, a little risky. We'll see how this goes. But I actually like this chapter of Undead Unluck a lot. I like that we're filling in more characters. I love that move just brought those characters in. And like, it could have just been fine to just let it be as it is, essentially. Just like, they're there. Why didn't Move let them? Who cares? But I do love like actually going over and Move's just like, I thought it'd be funny to bring them in. Like, I don't know. I just think that's like an amusing little way to handle it. I like the confidence that Fuko's mom shows. It does kind of help really give an idea to us of like, oh, like this is kind of a bit where Fuko has had this sort of conviction before. Like it's almost a hereditary thing for her. And I also just like how it's building up Karuru. I like this dark side. I like how her expanded ability is essentially like fucking Tsukishima. Like, you know, it's some cool stuff there. So I'm digging it. But let's move on to Blue Box. This is Blue Box, chapter 154, Into That Box. So, you remember last week, I think Nick and I were joking about, like, Taiki's, nameless opponent that he was going to effortlessly squash, and then he'd meet his more significant rivals as the tournament continues. So that wasn't accurate. Taiki lost. He forced a game 3, but did lose. And Taiki is noting to Kyo, saying, I still don't have what it takes to make a deep run at Nationals. But it does mean that he has a new goal now for next year. So we cut over to Nishida and Haru. I have to remember all these characters. Nick usually says their names. I'm not supposed to remember them. Who are in their doubles quarterfinals, but their opponents are one of the favorites. They were the reps at the under-19 tournament, so it's a very, very tough opponent. We see the back and forth. It's very exciting. They're doing good work. Haru's kind of trying to manage the rear. They're trying to like storm back, and we get a little bit of flashback showing Haru after the first tournament, the sort of solo tournament to get into nationals. How he's very upset. He was crying over a loss to his younger teammate. But he does note, he's like, I am happy Taiki will be going to nationals. He did great, and I accept the outcome, but I'm very frustrated. And his girlfriend, Corinne, is just like, or Karen? I think it's Karen. I don't know why I made like a more sharp sound to it. She's just like, look, like, of course, you had your eyes on nationals too. Like, you put a lot of your effort into this, so it's right to feel frustrated. You're not, like, you don't have to apologize for that. But since you still have a chance with doubles, go and finish strong so that you don't have any regrets about your career playing badminton. So we cut into the present. Haru is playing really, really hard. You could see sort of a lot of determination in his face. They managed to get a point scored, and they're like, all right, they did good. They scored a nice point. They got a good tempo going on. Nishida is just like, hey, you see in a flashback, he's like, hey, the movements of your racket are a reflection of your mental strength. And if you're unsure, your racket will be too. So if you lose your fighting spirit, your racket will fail too. So always keep it up. You gotta keep your warrior spirit strong. And Haru just interjects is like, it'd be nice if you made some complex shots too. Like, it's not all about just like pure power and fighting spirit or whatever. And he's like, did you say something? He's like, no, don't worry about it. But Nishida notes like, hey, you're good at it, Taiki. So keep aiming ever upward, Keep your racket up, Taiki, even if you didn't win here. So we see Nishida is playing his best, but there are shots that are getting past them. They have really, really fast reflexes on the other side. And Haruyu in this moment Nishida is thanking Haruyu mentally in this moment, saying, look, I have to thank you because I wouldn't have made it to nationals without you as my partner. Like, it just wouldn't have happened. And he's even thinking, like, at first, kind of thought you were a little stuck up because you had a model girlfriend and everything like that. So, well, we both had, like, this mutual love for badminton, and that was the reason we really got along. And the same goes for everyone else. It's why he likes everybody in the club so much. Everybody's there to be passionate about badminton. So, there's little shots of different trainings they've done. You have to remember these are people who have spent 3 years of their lives together. So, and they're very young. So that's, very significant in that point in their life. And we get like a 2-page spread that's sort of a collage of these different memories of the badminton club for these two. They say, thank you for making even the most mundane of days into something special. There are so many memories packed in that box, that blue box, you could say. I mean, that is actually what it is. That's why it's called that. But a shot gets straight past them down the middle. Boom. That's the final deciding point. They don't even get to force a game 3, but they put up a good fight and they lose. And that is essentially the end to both of their high school badminton careers, potentially their badminton careers entirely, because we know Haruyu at least doesn't want to continue playing the sport. So, there's a lot of congratulations. Karen watching on is just like, or Karen is just like, good job. She's smiling because she knows Haruyu put everything into this. And we see that, Taiki is looking at, the match results and how he lost already and his opponent is moving on. And he overhears some people talking about Yusa. And they're like, yeah, I'm a big fan. His shots have like such style. Yeah, he's really, really tough. And in this tournament, he's one of the top 4 players. And we can see that Yusa has already moved on in the tournament. He is advancing. So the chapter ends with Taiki kind of walking about. And he walks backstage somewhere and sees Yusa sleeping on a bench like he does. The poor guy really does like to just kind of vibe and sleep. So that's what he's doing. And that is the chapter. I like this chapter of Blue Box quite a bit, actually. I did not call that Taiki would eliminate in the first round. I have to remember this isn't really a sports series in the same way. Like, in the same way, like, Ice Shield 21 and, like, Slam Dunk and all that sort of stuff are, like, sports manga where you frequently get these, like, oh, we have to introduce new rivals and we need to have our characters, like, win matches to, like, establish themselves. The idea that Taiki makes it to nationals and is one and done is, like, a bummer in a way that's good for character development because it does give him a new goal going forward. I didn't assume he was ever going to win it or even go very far, but I didn't call him getting beat in the first round, which does make all of our jokes about his, like, mom last time being like, you're a bum, that's why I don't do anything for you, a lot funnier. So yeah, I guess we will get a little bit more of Yusa. I mean, I think we were always going to, but we're going to get some more Yusa, and I guess we're just going to have to kind of see where things go from here. I'm not sure what the rest of this tournament is going to be. I'm not sure if Taiki's mom will play like a part in all of this, or if that was just like a let's hear it for the mom kind of moment. But yeah, cool chapter, good stuff, and I think Nick's is restarting his computer, so it might be a bit. I know from experience, Nick's computer sometimes takes a while to restart, so I think we are going to keep moving on, and we will see when Nick rejoins us. In the meantime, let's move over to talking about Chainsaw Man. This is Chainsaw Man chapter 169's 169 Hands, an adaptation. So they have made it to Sushishi, the sushi restaurant. The gang is all there, although it is worth noting that the Nail Devil and someone else is waiting outside. They mentioned who it is later. I don't remember if it's Katana Devil guy or not. I don't really remember anyone's names, unfortunately. There's going to be a lot of, I don't remember this character's name. Usually Nick does. Oh God, what am I doing here? Panicking, but I'll try to remember. Hopefully they say it. So Denji is there, and it's the third student council guy. Was there a third student council guy? Jesus, I don't remember these characters. So Denji is at this restaurant, and he's looking around, and there's a lot of people just having like happy memories, essentially. They're like, kids running around. There's a couple there that seemingly is on a date. There's somebody who's like wistfully, like, drinking, someone else who's eating. And Denji's like, they're all chowing down. Have they all had their load shot by someone else's hand before? Like, he's this poor boy. He doesn't know what to think. His brain is mush. He finally got to interact with somebody, and that's how it went. So he's thinking to himself, Puchita, so much awful crap has happened that I want to die. And now sushi is flowing before my eyes. And I just got to climax by somebody else for the first time. It's like, it wasn't as good as when I do it myself, but it really did make my heart race and made me feel really good. He's just like speechless, kind of staring at it. He's like, am I happy or unhappy right now? And props to Fami, who is sitting in between Asa and Denji, like that pivotal, like, it would be way too awkward if you two were right next to each other. So she's the one kind of stuck there, and she's like, hey, Fami, do you mind, Asa is I should say, do you mind if I wait outside, because there's nothing here I can eat? And Fami just goes, hard hoo hoo hee hee hua fu hua, like she just has a mouthful of fucking fish, and Asa's just like, what the fuck did you say? I don't know. So, main student council guy, the one who was suspicious of Asa and everything, is just like, yeah, so Okoku and the Nail Fiend are outside watching the hideout. Is it really okay for us to enjoy a meal this nice without them? And, oh God, Higashiyama, that's such a long name. I'm never going to remember that. He asks Higashiyama, are you going to eat any actual sushi? I'm not sure what they are eating. I'm not a sushi person. So, if someone wants to fill me in on that, I'd greatly appreciate it. But Higashiyama is just like, so I don't know who's paying for this, so I'm not going to eat expensive sushi, basically. And he's called weird, but they're like, not as weird as Mitaka. I mean, she lost an arm, but she seems the same as always. Like, if I lost an arm, I think I'd cry for like a week. And a voice comes in saying, easy does it. It's the same as animals. Animals don't get sad when they lose a limb. They simply adapt to it for survival's sake. And who should it be but Barem? Barem bitches or something? I don't think it's that. But I remember his first name was Barem. They say it also. But he's like, yeah, devils aren't really supposed to feel sadness either, are they? So a bunch of characters, bridges. I knew it was something close. I knew it rhymed with bitches. Everyone's kind of reacting to the fact that this guy's here. They're like, this is the second in command of the Chainsaw Man Church. And Denji is obviously like smashes his chopsticks into the table and is going up as though he's about to like stab him in the back. And Barem just says, I'll take you to Nayuta. So keep quiet and park it next to me. That does stop Denji. There's like a pause. And he sits down next to Barem. And he's like, take some soy sauce, some chopsticks. Also, and Denji just interrupts. It's just like, where's Nayuta? And there's like some silence going on. And Barem says, public safety's out front. They have the building surrounded. When we head outside after our sushi, we'll both be dismembered. But if you save us, Denji, I'll let you see Nayuta. And Denji's like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to see Nayuta? And Barem, of course, classic Chainsaw Man. We can't end on like a traditional dramatic moment. Barem ends the chapter where he's like, first eat this egg sushi. So there you go. Now, what is egg sushi? to the audience that's listening. Is it just egg on top of sushi, like a sushi rice? Because that sounds actually very good. But if there's fish involved, that sounds disgusting, and I can't ever eat it. I relate too much to Asa in this moment. That sounds gross to me and revolting. Egg on sushi rice. That sounds delightful. I would love that. So, wow, that actually does sound really good. Yeah, I didn't expect necessarily Barem to show back up immediately, but this isn't really immediately. It's been actually like 3, maybe 4 months since he showed up. So this all makes sense. I am very curious to see what is going to happen from here. I guess we might be getting some more action sometime very soon. I don't know necessarily how to feel about this chapter, but I did enjoy it. It is funny. And Denji, please eat some sushi. Hey, Nick has returned.
I'm back.
Hey.
I don't know what happened.
Oh, it's all good. Just to give you a heads up, I recapped Undead Unluck, Blue Box, and just finished Chainsaw Man.
Okay. Those are going to immediately fade from my brain now because I couldn't talk about them. I really appreciated Chainsaw Man. Mm-hmm. Just the sheer moment of Denji having the moment of like, have these people had sex too? It's such a such a dumb thing, but it's also a really real thing.
He is a boy who has finally had his first sexual encounter, and he's just like it's changing his viewpoint of the world. Like he's just like had a piece of his mind unlocked.
Yeah, it's one of the various stages of understanding like, oh, sex is a thing that people can have. Yeah. I didn't expect that Barem would show up. Fuck that guy. Kick his ass, Denji. And I know that I know you have to save his ass first, apparently. But kick his ass, Denji.
Yeah, kick his ass, save his ass, and kick his ass. Maybe in the same motion. I also do relate a lot, not to just Asa, who's like, I don't like fish, can we leave, please? But also to Higashiyama, who's just like, I don't know who's paying for this, so I'm not going to get anything really lavish.
Yeah, who's their
Oh, still losing Nick, unfortunately.
Of course, right now. Who is providing they
This isn't great. This might have to be an episode we have to call early if Nick's connection's still really bad.
We'll see what happens shortly, I guess. But I think it was fate that I returned at the moment that I did, Quinn, because we've got to talk about something very, very important.
What's that?
We're going to talk about the end of Eden Zero.
No, we talk about Spy Family first.
We do?
Yeah.
That's in alphabetical order. Never mind. Fine. Well, Spy Family is also very important, Quinn. So there.
Eden Zero, it's a weekly series. It's not a regular series. It goes right after them, and it's the break point.
I only have to know this for one more
hour. I have a bit that I intend to do regarding the last chapter of Eden Zero, and you better be fucking connected for it. So,
all right,
this is the proof to see if this will actually work.
Right, this is the trial run. That's right. Spy Family Mission 100 is the trial run for something way more important, obviously. This is such a weird chapter to be the 100th chapter of the series. It's part of a flashback, and it is the darkest this series has literally ever been. We've seen tidbits here and there of like, oh, the horrors of war from various characters' past. We got really in-depth look into Lloyd's past. It wasn't as bad as this. Mm-hmm. So Martha is on the front line because of her stupid country's stupid plan to stupidly send people who were not supposed to be combatants to the front line because they're going to sacrifice children for, a meaningless war. And a shell falls on her troop and blows up. She survives with, honestly, relatively minor injuries, considering it was a bomb that went off.
Yeah, she has like one finger bent backwards and I'm trying to think if we see any, like, really other big established. Her leg's kind of fucked up.
She's kind of, limping a little bit, but she's mostly just, like, cut and bruised at this point. And she has a very odd person to thank for that. Black Bell Heavy Industries, who made the artillery gun that shielded her from the blast. So a nice little nod there to her eventual future. But the other members of her unit are dead. There is a leg just sitting there on the ground. Just a stump.
Yep.
Gross. Some of the other members of the area try and break and run, and their lieutenant shoots one of them in the head and the heart to stop them from running away. And tells them, like, no, you're going to stay here and be a wall to buy our comrades time. And if you have a problem with that, I will put you out of your misery here and now. And it kind of comes down all at once.
It's brutal because it's like, we are just here to die. That is the sole purpose of this. They are putting us here to die to protect the rest of our comrades. And more specifically, it's like, you didn't really want us in the war. We are just bodies to protect the better soldiers in your mind, I'm sure.
Absolutely. It's not just the propaganda against, using the women. It's the propaganda of like, hey, join the army and you'll be a great hero and stuff. That's all a lie. It's all just so that you can be meat.
Yep.
She kind of has that realization. More battle unfolds, but Martha, who is injured, falls behind. She is, limping and struggling while everyone else is, rushing out to various combat fronts. She gets cornered by some enemy soldiers and gets chased to a cliff, which she falls down when she fires back at them. She takes a couple of bullet shots, but they're like grazing wounds, falls down to the river below, and wakes up in a cabin somewhere with a good doggo looking over her.
Yeah. Nick, what do you think that doggo's name is? We find it out eventually, but if you just see it for the first time, what does that dog look like to you?
The only thing that is coming to my mind literally right now is Shiloh, that one kid's book.
That's a nice name. There used to be a TikToker I watched with a dog that looked like that called Donnybrook. And I don't know why Donnybrook is like one of those names you're like, perfect dog name. I don't know. It's so weird, but yeah, Donnybrook, go for it.
Yeah. So Martha is in, pain and stuff, but she's fine, and she sees that her wounds have been treated, especially like, her broken finger. She's got it, bound up. And she's like, did I make it back to Astania? And this older woman comes into the room, stares at her for a second, turns around, goes, humph, and she says, you're still in Westalis, Ostanian soldier girl. And Martha struggles to get up, and she's like, no, stop it. Like, no one's going to hurt you here. I would have killed you if I wanted to. Because, she was, of course, unconscious and helpless. She says the dog's name is Barem. And says, like, yeah, you better thank him because he found you at the riverbank. You were half dead. And we learn through Martha's narration that, like, yeah, look, the woman was, like, not exactly polite to me, but she took care of me until my wounds were healed. And, one time, Martha was wandering around. She sees a picture of the woman's family. Yeah. It did well, I bet. She also indicates she threw away her uniform. Good. And she says, look, you can take whatever you want out of my daughter's things. And Martha's like, oh, I couldn't just, take your daughter's clothing. She's like, she won't be needing them. She passed away last year. Her right leg was the only part of her that made it home.
Oof. I mean, crazy that they knew it was her right leg, though.
You can identify toes.
Can you?
Yes.
I did not know that. Okay. In my mind,
pinky toes and big toes.
In my mind, they're like, if she hadn't tattooed her name on her ankle, like all people do.
Oh, you're saying you don't know how they identified that it was her leg?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if DNA tests exist in this world.
Because, my brother always had, like, a large tattoo with his last name on his arm. So I'm like, the idea, they were like, look, there was a big explosion, a lot of body parts. We don't know what really belonged to your brother, but we do know this arm did. I'd be like, fair enough. He put his name on it. Like, it makes sense.
I naively thought that you were saying, like, how did they know it was her right leg as opposed to her left leg?
Oh,
And I was
yeah.
like, those are different quiz.
I thought you were like, yeah, they did toe fingerprints. I was like,
Fingerprints.
yeah, I was like, that's crazy, right? Like, I mean, sure, I guess it makes sense, but I didn't realize that was a thing.
And yeah, Martha realized, like, hey, this woman's daughter died in the war, and yet she, for some reason, is taking care of me and also is, like, not getting angry with me or anything. There comes a time when Martha is mostly recovered and she's like, hey, I can, like, walk around now. Do you want me to, like, help out around here? But she immediately hides because someone is riding down the road and comes to visit the woman, Mrs. Annabelle. And yeah, fortunately, he doesn't realize that anyone else is in the house.
Yeah, he thinks it's just Barem, which this is maybe one of my favorite panels. I don't know why. It's just the dog's expression. Ah, bark! And he's like, I should have known. You're like,
that guy has given him food before. Absolutely.
oh, almost certainly. But also just like, you thought you saw somebody, and then this like foot tall dog comes out. You're like, must have been that dog. And of course you would. You see that face? Of course you would just be like, yeah, of course that's who I saw.
It doesn't make sense that Barem was talking with an adult human woman's voice. But look at what a good boy he is.
He's such a good little man. Yeah.
After the man leaves, Ms. Annabelle says to Martha, look, that this village is full of refugees whose homes burned down during this war. And even if it weren't, anti-Eastern sentiment is boiling over all across the nation. So don't show your face around here if you don't want to be killed. And I was like, yeah, sorry. And the woman has a pretty wise outlook on things, which is like, yeah, they just dumped a little girl like you on the front lines. Your country sucks. Which, yeah, the problem is, lady, that your country also sucks. So it's like you're halfway there to realizing how terrible it is here. And yeah, Martha starts to bite back by saying, it's like, you Westerners are to blame for this, and I just want to go home. And Ms. Annabelle says, like, hey, well then go. Like, you're putting my life in danger too.
No one's stopping you.
Yeah. She says, you're putting my life in danger, you're in danger here, so we never met. And Martha agrees that she'll just sneak out. There's a cute little moment where she does give Barem a little pat. And she whispers goodbye to Mrs. Annabelle and just starts walking. And it's in the middle of night, and so of course she's cold. But she gets lost pretty quickly. And she realizes, like, oh man, I don't know where I am. I don't know which way I'm going, and I'm hungry. And then she checks her bag, and there's bread in it. There's money, a scarf, which Annabelle has been knitting for her, and there's a map that just has the words "Go home" scrawled in the corner of it. And Martha looks at this in shock. She tears up, and she mentally writes a letter saying, Dear Henry, Westalis has beautiful night skies, delicious bread, and kind-hearted people. When I get home, I've got so many stories like that to tell you.
It's so sweet. She's still thinking about him.
Of course she's thinking about him. She's like desperately lost and scared. Of course she's thinking about someone that she wants to be with in those trying times. But it's this is kind of like a prerequisite chapter that any war is pointless series needs to have at some point. At least any series that has like this conflict is pointless that is written well would do. But
not those weird ones that are like, war is actually pretty cool when you think about it.
I think that it's really just how suddenly brutal, not brutal, but terrifying the series gets in the beginning of this chapter that really makes it effective. To this point in Spy Family, we've seen, death like quite a lot. One of the main characters,
Lloyd's flashback was kind of dark as well.
Yes, but like the number of just dead bodies in this one.
I mean, it is terrifying to think about being in that position where they're like, you can either sit here and get crushed and murdered by tanks, or we could shoot you right now because you're not willing to sit here and get crushed to death by tanks. Those are your two options, ladies. And it's like,
Sucks.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that at all, but it's important to show that that's the terror in that sort of situation. This war is awful, especially the side that's putting a bunch of people out there under the guise of patriotism just to let them be fucking meat shields is awful.
And it's also how we get, of course, the context that this falls into is this is why Henry thinks that Martha died.
Yes.
Is because she was part of a unit that was otherwise completely wiped out, and it was only through luck, some of it bad, honestly, because, you know, she fell behind and got separated from her unit, that caused her to not be with them when they got totally wiped out. Mm-hmm. But she also got lost in another pretty typical, like, hey, people get lost during wars when they go to foreign countries story. And it's just nice to see this, to have us again reminded of the context of, like, this entire conflict that did happen is the entire reason why Lloyd is working towards what he is.
Yeah.
Is to stop this from happening again.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I like this chapter. It's very good. It's very effective. But Nick, we teased it already. We have to talk about it. Guys, it is chapter 293 of Eden Zero, the final chapter, Friends. What else would it be called, Nick?
What else would it be called?
So we open the chapter with Zhao Mei and her feet, of course. Got it one last time for those feet fans out there. And she notes that after spanning several cosmos and timelines, this wonderful adventure is finally coming to a close. She thanks us all for joining her and staying with us till the end. That, I feel, feels very targeted at me and you, who have sat through this garbage for a while. And she says, now I present the final chapter of this tale. Also, as Ninja brings up, wasn't she the moon? But I guess...
Only the Earth got warped back in time.
No, she did as well.
Nope.
Okay. Yeah. So, in the chapter, we open into Planet Grand Blue. Michael's there. He's like, hey, Shiki, it's happening. And Shiki's there, being a mechanic. He's like, give me a minute, Michael. And he washes hands. And he goes over to a deactivated Pino and says, don't worry, Pino. I'll be right back, okay? And
he's also wearing a Navy t-shirt.
Mm-hmm. In the Navy. He loves the Navy, Nick.
I feel like we missed a lot of context with the decision to just end the series on this chapter.
No. It's
okay.
Nick, please. Everything is so self-evident. I don't know why I'd question it. This does confirm that it was a dream that we saw last chapter. It wasn't that she was pulled into an alternate universe. Although I guess that's a headcanon you can accept. But Pino is dead. This universe is still here. And Shiki is working to fix Pino.
She just went, pew,
yeah.
Turned off.
For a reason we still don't quite understand. I know a purpose was achieved, but it's not like my toaster toast once, then it's like, goodbye, Quinn. Like, it doesn't work that way.
Oh, yes. As we all have come to know and appreciate Pino's story as the little toaster that could.
Can you imagine? Like, I pull a frozen pizza out of my oven. My oven's like, my work here is finished, brr. And I'm like, you're so expensive. Please don't.
That's the real tragedy right there.
I'm like,
not this being we've come to learn is a sentient entity with its own thoughts and dreams and desires suddenly not being alive anymore. No. Quinn's got to get a new microwave.
Yeah, I drive to Target and my car is like, see you later, space cowboy. And I'm like, you son of a bitch. I have to get back from here.
You're just like, I have the worst stand ever.
I hate Fatboy Slim. This thing doesn't do anything cool. So honestly, I don't know how the best way to recap this chapter is, because truth be told, this is the second most significant thing that happens in this chapter is we learn that Pino is that Shiki's trying to rebuild Pino essentially.
I remember, because we've covered by this point a fair number of like significant last chapters of series, not just stuff that's like, you know, ended well before its time, but Fairy Tail for one, Naruto, Bleach,
Toriko. Yeah, you can keep going if you really want to. We're about to do My Hero soon.
Right. And in each of them, it felt as if like, okay, here is some context to let you know where these characters are. In some cases, like Bleach, in my opinion, it was very unsatisfying. But in some cases, hell, with Naruto, it felt as if like, okay, I have not been happy with like the series in general, but just seeing the amount of stuff that was thrown into that chapter, of like seeing like what the hell happened with fucking like Kiba at a certain point, was like, okay, I could take some satisfaction to this, seeing like, oh, here's where these characters are now. But what we see in this brief gathering of characters, for a reason we'll get into, is just, and then they came back. Like there is
we don't actually...
two characters maybe that you could say like they were doing stuff. Everyone else just like, well, it's nice to see you again. What's different for you?
Yeah,
I'm wearing a different dress.
That is the key thing. Is that the core thing to this chapter is Rebecca and Shiki apparently have completely gotten together and are having a child. So at least 9 months have passed. Like, let's assume Rebecca immediately got pregnant. It's still been presumably around 9 months or so. And it feels like nobody's lives has really changed in any way, because there's a bunch of characters who are just talking about, oh, Shiki's really nervous. Why are you nervous? Oh, it's because you're about to be a father. We see Rebecca is in labor on the ship. Cut over to Norma. Sabir's like, hey, Wise, Hermit, I guess you two are a couple as well. It makes sense. We've been shipping you two a lot.
They're at least spending time together.
Yeah. Also, Wise has just a terrible... This is the only character whose like appearance really feels like a change, because he went from having like annoying spiky anime hair to just like a crappy bowl cut, like real bad, not great.
It's like he wears his hair the way that someone who's got a receding hairline but is not willing to admit it does.
Yeah. So Sabir's like, Rebecca and Shiki are having their kid, you're gonna miss it. And they're like, oh, don't worry, Grand Belle's just a hop, skip, and a jump away using our new ship. We didn't name it. Why would that matter? Why would you give you anything about it? Check out our ship. And end credits on Hermit and Weiss's story in Eden Zero. If you were a big Weiss fan, that's the end. He made a ship.
Call it like a popular fanship name between them. Do something.
Something. Call it, name it after your mom. Give it something. There is nothing. It's just a ship with like a turtle shell kind of design pattern on it.
Hero's like, I came up with a new ship design, guys.
Yeah. So cut over to planet Ado or whatever the fuck it's called. Homura's there with Valkyrie. They're like, we have to go. Thank you, Homura's mom. You'll watch the planet. We don't see Creed. So in case you were waiting for any kind of Creed payoff beyond the fact that he rebuilt Valkyrie, there's none. We see the three knuckleheads from Sun Jewel, so we know they're there. And of course, Homura's mom in this universe, everything's super hunky-dory. That's it. There's not really any more there. The other members of the Eden Zero, the fucking D team, I guess you would want to call them. I don't know. They all meet up. There's like a comment that's like, oh, wow, Cleed, you've really grown. A bunch of characters say something. It doesn't fucking matter. The dawn is about to bring, like, it's, perfect. Like, oh, it's a new day. We're about to bring new life into the world.
Rebecca is giving birth, and she's being assisted by Sister and
Witch.
Yep. And I have never seen Mashima Hiro be so discreet in illustrating. This man does not have a pregnancy fetish. Like, he does not.
You're not wrong. He could have really made it real wild, but anyways, Shiki is like, you could do it. This dawn's about to bring, and we cut over to Pino floating in space in front of Mother, who I guess, in addition to being the Earth, is also a tangible reality entity in between life, death space. I don't know. Pino's like, where am I? And Mother is like, yeah, you died, but you stand inside the planet's memory, a world of all time of life and death. And Pino's like, oh, it's because you and your friends, you saved me. And Pino's like, oh, no, I didn't. Like, I didn't save you. And she's like, now it's my turn to save you. Rebecca and Shiki are about to have a child, and I am going to make you that child, basically. And Pino has this moment of like, I will be human. And we see like this big, like, light energy coming. We cut back to Rebecca. She's just giving birth. We hear a baby crying. And they're like, oh, it's this girl. We're going to name her Pino. And then Pino says, one moment. And the little robot body walks in. And she's like, I refuse to let you use my name without authorization. And there's just a bunch of reaction shots. And she basically in the flashback says, look, their child was like going to be an actual person. It wasn't going to be me. So I can't take that body. Instead, I would like to return to them in the form that I went on all these adventures with them with. Because I am me. And it doesn't matter if you're a human or a machine, not to my master or to any of my friends on the Eden's Zero. Nick, that is the whole fucking series.
This was a garbage conclusion.
This is really bad. Like,
this is not just a garbage conclusion because nothing happens for the most part. It also takes like the one interesting character thread that we had left and resolves it in the biggest fart I could have imagined.
I'm not even against the idea that Pino would see this opportunity and say, I don't want to take Rebecca and Shiki's child or something like that. But it's just a nothing thing to be like, she just realized being a robot's actually pretty cool. Like, it's just one of these things. Like, it's a series.
Yeah, but why?
It's a series that has nothing to say about anything. So it's just like, it's not as though, I don't know. It just feels like one of these things that just, the best way I can almost describe my feeling as I read this chapter is I was like, it almost feels like this series was canceled. Like, it wasn't. Obviously, the series has been ending now for like fucking 4 months or whatever. It's been very evident the series was not canceled. But in that same way that like we recap a series that ends after like 20 chapters and it was like, shit, I didn't have enough time. Here's just a collage of characters. Maybe one of them has a new haircut. Let's do the one plot line we didn't get to really, really quickly and done. So, dust your hands and the adventures continued. That's the energy that this has, because there is just nothing worth talking about in this. No one's doing anything interesting. No one's off doing any interesting things. How has the world changed in this time? How are these characters changed? Everyone looks essentially identical. I don't know if Rebecca even actually has a line of dialogue that isn't her just like grunting and doing delivery. Like, Ziggy is just hanging around. So I guess that's just the thing. Like, Ziggy just hangs out with all of them. Like, does he not feel like he has a different purpose? Like, these aren't my friends. I should go to my universe. Like, I'm just like, it feels like nothing got resolved or paid off or made to be any kind of conclusion.
I don't have a problem with the idea in general of Pino deciding like, I would prefer to be a robot. I will give up on my wish, whatever. That is, a way to resolve a story. If you're like, hey, this character wants something and then decides that that's not what they really want. They just need, to be with their friends and stuff. Fair enough. But the logic and the reasoning behind, no, I've decided to come back as a robot, is like, because my master and my friends don't care whether you're a robot or a human. But that had nothing to do with why she wanted to be a human. To begin with. She was already, when she was a robot, accepted by her friends and family, regardless of the fact that she was a robot. None of them treated her any differently or lesser because she was a robot. That was already the case. And she still, at that point, wanted to be a human. So Now you're saying it's like, no, this is all about actually like equality and treating people without prejudice, that they're the same. But that wasn't explored enough because you weren't doing it well. Like,
look, so if I were to give, because usually when we read the last chapter or something, it's also an opportunity for us to kind of sum up our thoughts on the product in question. And I mean, like, we've discussed this series now for multiple years. Like, I want to say it's like 5 years we've talked about this series.
Years. Yeah.
So there is like a weird thing at the start where it was like, oh, the series is like stupid because it tries to be dark, but it's just dark in like a cruel way. And there's just like those dumb moments, like, you know, the anal bomb and Eggbot and the stuff with Homora's mom, where you're just like, this is so weird, this is so gross, all that sort of stuff. The end of this series, though, I like long for the days when it was like, oh, here's fucking, like, you don't want something like the moms in tubes gets brought up. Like, I live for those days. For the days,
it's not a sex thing,
when we push the button on Moskowy and he's a sexy butler dom, and you're just like, well, this is fucking random. I have had almost nothing to say about Eden Zero for like 3 months now. There's almost nothing creatively interesting in a good or bad way about this series. It is straight paint by numbers. The fact that this last chapter is just called Friends, as though there are any meaningful connections or chemistry between any of the characters and the crew, is like laughable. And I straight up was like, this is one of the most miserable experiences I've had. I've noted many times before, I will take something bad over something that's boring 100 times out of 100. And this is straight up one of the most boring things I've ever read. And like, people in our Discord have joked, they're like, oh, are you going to go read Dead Rock now? Dead Rock is the monthly series Hero is doing. And I'm like, no, I would need to be very clear. No. In fact, I put together a list of things that I would rather discuss or do than do another Hero series on this podcast. Nick,
okay, Quinn, make sure there's no monkey's paws around, okay?
Yeah. I need to think these are all things I would rather do than discuss another Hero series in the podcast. I would rather recap Kagurabachi, Elusive Samurai, and that stupid Yokai comedy series that's in the recap right now that we know we're dropping after a week. I would rather recap all of them than touch another Hero series. I would rather recap Akisora level of pornography on the podcast than talk about another Hero series. I would rather recap negative reviews of the Lost series finale, a series finale I love. I would just recap people who hate the shit out of it than talk about another Hero series. I would rather slam my big toes into every stair in my household, record my exclamations of pain, then pay a DJ to remix them all into a 10-minute dubstep track, and then listen to it on the podcast while I put icy hot on my genitals, then talk about another Hero series on the podcast. I would rather eat a bowl of rotten egg jelly beans than talk about it again. I would rather tattoo my social security number to my forehead than read another one of these. I'd rather get
this would be backwards.
Yeah. I would rather get punched in the mouth by every member of the Philadelphia Eagles starting offensive and defensive lines than read another Hero series. I would rather get elbow dropped through an announcer's table, but it's one of those times where the tables doesn't break away, so you can know that it must have really, really fucking hurt. I would rather guest on the Joe Rogan podcast than talk about another Hero series. I would rather make a 4-hour-long video essay on why Sonic the Hedgehog actually isn't that cool. And I would rather read Air Gear again before I read another Hero series on this podcast. Eden Zero was not just bad, it was like astonishingly bad in ways that like I can't truly process.
And not the fun ways.
No.
It would have been I would have had much different things to say about the series if like the last honestly, since we got access to it again basically through K-Manga. Almost the entirety of that time it has been boring shit. I think the most interesting that happened was during that time was the Moskoy Butler thing.
Yeah.
And that was terrible, but it was something to talk about. There were so many twists that were easy, basic shit that were supposed to be big, huge deals. There was nothing imaginative, nothing dramatic about how they were executed. This is the type of manga or the type of anime that people who don't like anime and manga think that all anime and manga is.
This series just regurgitated the word friendship like 400 times and was like, we made a good series, right? And you're like, no. Like, look, there's some people out there who probably love this series, you know? And I don't want to necessarily yuck your yum, you know, like what you like, but I think this was painfully bad. The fact that there was like a time skip that then got undone by an alternate universe hopping where we just replayed the series again, but in like everything is good mode. And essentially it was like watching someone else do a new game plus where they're so strong, nothing is interesting anymore and everything works out perfectly. You're just like, this sucks. Like, this is so boring. I don't understand the concept behind it. It feels like creatively there just weren't any, like, not even like, oh, there weren't even new ideas. There weren't ideas, period. Like, they were just like, hey, I need to have fights. I guess I'll put a robot here. I guess I established Lightning Law. So I'll have somebody fight Lightning Law. And you're just like, I guess that's something. But so much of the series was just nothing. Like, I don't know. I hated this. I truly hated this. I'm so glad it's done. I am so glad I don't have to open up K-Manga again. Yeah. That app sucked. I want to throw this out to the audience because, you know, we have something leave the recap. Usually it's nice to try to get something to pull in. I want to throw this out to the audience. If you guys have an idea for a series we can legally read elsewhere, I know a lot of people have pitched Zatch Bell 2 to us, which exists in like sort of a legal gray area where there is no official translation, but the mangaka probably will never do an official translation because of how the last time they did one ended. So I know people pitch that. Maybe someone can sell me on it really, really hard, but I really feel that's that gray area I don't want to get into. But
or we can get you caught up on Hajime no Ippo.
Jesus. Does that come out weekly still?
Technically yes,
okay.
But it is also very much in a legal gray area because the mangaka doesn't want it to be like available. Basically.
So look, there's options out there. I would love, like, Azuki is a service I would love to have a subscription to again. If someone's like, hey, there's a series that's weekly on Azuki you could read or something like that, sure. If there's another Manga Plus series that people are like, I think you guys would really, really dig this, something along those lines. Hey, one of the series that sometimes gets updated on Viz site and not Shonen Jump, something like that. We're open to suggestions. I'd love to hear them. I want to talk about something else. I need something to wash the taste of Eden Zero out of my mouth, basically.
Yeah, it's going to be a period of change for right now because we're going to be losing a number of series. We've already lost 2 in the last 2 weeks that we that at different times in different ways we liked covering. We're going to lose a really big one soon.
Yep.
Let's talk about Astro Royale.
We should mention that because we don't have
Elephant in the room.
Yeah, we don't have My Hero to talk about this week, but it was announced that there are 5 chapters left of My Hero Academia. So I think it's like officially said it's like one of the August chapters. I think it's like a double issue or something like that we will get the last chapter for it in.
That's crazy to me. Jeez.
I don't know how I'm going to process when One Piece finally ends. Like, I truly don't know how to process it. It is that monolith that has remained since we've started this. And to see a crazy long running series, another one that ended after the other crazy long series ended, and then it was there. It's just wild to think about.
Let's talk about Astro Royale, Quinn.
Do we?
I know it's a weird thing to come to at this point. It's such a weirdly placed after all the stuff we've already just talked about. It's chapter 10, The Iron Chef's Heated Battle! It sounds so much cooler than what we see. The Hibaru team is helping to clear out a bunch of rubble on the roads because, of course, hey, that meteor messed stuff up. Buildings collapsed, roads were ruined, and everything like that. They help out some truck driver guy who's like, I never think a bunch of Yakuza. Bye, everybody. It's like, these guys don't act like criminals. You need to stop talking like they're criminals. Stop pretending. Kimpa comes running up because her actual dad, I got it wrong last week. Her dad was not the cop. I got his name confused with this guy's name. Ginji, just the kind of normal guy in the family, the normal older guy who was just kind of around doing when Hibaru showed up to help out. So that is her dad. And anyway, he is not doing so good. He's like anemic because he has been pushing himself, trying to help a lot of people. Because it turns out he also has an Astro, but he's got a healing Astro, Leech Heal, which it takes a bunch of his own stamina and literally his body calories to heal people. And so he was pushing himself too hard. He's really hungry now as a result of that. So Kibaru's like, all right, then I'll have to treat him to some delicious food. And he dresses up in a chef's uniform. And then Terasu also is like, no, I will cook for him and dress up in a chef's uniform.
Well, because we have to establish you're way too clumsy to make anything good. We need character traits for Hibaru because he doesn't have any really.
Let's just say them at him until something sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of a sudden they're having a Iron Chef battle. They even say a la cuisine, and there are judges. Like the old man that has the candy that Hibaru buys from is there along with Ginji. And they're there to commentate, but they don't commentate during the rest of the competition. they have mic stands and then say nothing while everything else is happening because the other characters are actually talking. They're making food. Jokes happen. And then while that's happening, the guys are getting distracted, so Kinpa kind of like takes over and makes Hibaru's dishes, and she's like, why do you have to be a bunch of stupid brats? And the old man is like, you're wrong, Kinpa. When times are rough, doing silly things helps lighten the mood. Sometimes, yes, I guess.
Sometimes.
This is an okay time to do it, I guess. It's not like,
Sure.
Everyone's, whatever. So, yeah, anyway, they made a bunch of food for everyone, not just for Genji, but also like the surrounding folks and stuff. Genji, eats food, and yay, everyone's better and stuff. And then another guy comments, haha, both teams did great, but Terasu's cookie is too fancy pants. You're looking good, kiddos. And a guy in a suit approaches. It is Terazo, the third adopted son of the Yotsurugi family.
Whoa!
Wow, Hibaru is happy to see him. Wow, another brother that there's just no conflict with. He just like shows up and is like, hey, isn't this nice? And it's like, all right, cool. All right.
Maybe it's a twist. Maybe he'll turn on them.
Maybe. So he says that he's come to pay his respects, and he like goes to the portrait of like all the family together, and he bows to it as because he's like paying respects to their father. And he says the diamond bond is unbreakable, but even so, I have decided to punish Shio. And he says to Hibaru, do you know the first thing that someone does after obtaining great power? And Terasu, the one that Hibaru wants to lead their family, says, abuse it? Dude, red flag.
Yeah. You destroy everyone and instill yourself as a permanent leader forever?
And Terazo says, no, they stamp out other sources of power. Which feels like it's supposed to be the red flag, but Terasu's was such a big red flag.
Yeah, like, the dude kind of said the same thing anyway, but I don't know, whatever.
But Terazo says, Shio stole my link. He is hunting Astros. So basically, he is saying like, because he's got power, he is stomping at other sources of power.
I need to make it very fucking clear. If this motherfucker's link is a fucking lighter or like a book of matches or some shit that's like that, I may drop this series. Like, I may just be like, then call it Lighter Fight if this is what you're gonna fucking do, okay?
Call the series Zippo.
Yeah, it's Firefight, but without the fire.
What if, like, he, takes out a book and everyone's like,
oh, finally. Opens it up.
It's a cutout with a lighter in it.
Yeah, pulls out a coin. Everyone's like, phew, finally. And he opens up the top of a coin. It's a Zippo. You're like, yeah, sure. Why not, dog?
Pulls out a gun. He's like, oh, well, that's kind of unimaginable. It's one of those pistol lighters.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Terraza says, like, hey, my faction is the second largest in the family, so I posed a huge threat to Shio, which also goes the same for you, Hibaru. So I'm going to go and fight Shio. And Hibara's like, then I'm coming with you. Because I want to go and talk to him face to face. So, yeah, okay.
Sure.
That's the next step. That's it. Let's move on to, okay. So, guys, if you missed Friday's episode or haven't had a chance to watch it because your schedule didn't allow for it, the first of the new series that dropped last week is an Exorcist comedy series, and I was kind of tired after a long week and did not have the bandwidth to control my emotional outburst about that. It didn't help that the series itself is dull. But I said, everyone stop doing Exorcist series. Just stop it. Especially Exorcist comedy series, because there's a lot of them, it seems. Quinn, is there such a thing as like the opposite of leading with the best, which diminishes everything else to follow? Is there like an opposite of that? This is like, you give me the worst option of two options because you want me to pick the second one.
Yeah. I can give you like a good example. So like at the start of this year, there were 2 lesbian crime movies that I was like super excited about. And the first one was called Drive Away Dolls. And the movie is nothing. It's basically like a series of TikToks that like ends in like less than 90 minutes. There's barely a plot line to it. It's nothing. Then the second one is Love Lies Bleeding, which was like one of the most incredible movies of the year. It was one of these things where it's like, how do you two have both like such like a like distinct like elevator pitch kind of thing? And then like one of you is nothing and the other one is incredible. It's this same thing where it's like, okay, we're going to give you garbage. We're going to serve you a McDonald's hamburger, and then we're going to give you a gourmet burger. Just to like, maybe not even gourmet, a Red Robin burger, so you at least get like a difference.
I don't like Red Robin.
Damn. All right, no. Chili's?
Chili's is pretty good.
There you go. So you get a Chili's burger after that, and you're just like...
Compared to McDonald's,
yeah. Yeah, you're like, damn, Chili's is fucking hitting. Like, I love Chili's, I guess.
Like, it is the thing of... I am at a point now where I don't know if this series is actually good.
Yeah.
But as I am eating the burger, I'm like, oh my god, individual ingredients. Flavors. Like,
it's not just grease.
I bite into it and I can feel the different components as opposed to just a gelatinous mass that was pounded and packed and shaped into the vague resemblance of a burger. This is Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi. And at first, I was terrified because it's titled Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi.
It's terrifying. Like, there had to be, like, a jump scare moment. I think it may have happened when I told you the next chapter, the next series, I think, was going to be another Exorcist one. But there is a moment where you're like, am I stuck in a time loop? Am I stuck in Groundhog's Day and the only new manga I'm getting are garbage comedy Exorcist series now?
It just becomes Exorcist Jump. Yeah.
Yeah.
But immediately, hey, there's like some stylized artwork going on here. That weird crescent moon in the background and stuff. The cover page, which introduces us to some characters, two of which we don't see in this chapter. Okay, then we are introduced to our main character, Kiyoshi, and he's like, "I'm an exorcist," and he is just, like sitting down. He's in a chair, staring very intently, and he says, "Yeah, it's just 16 years old. I received my first assignment as an exorcist, and I am scared witless." And there is a big creepy demon that's like holding some knives up to him, and he narrates like, "Yeah, I came in all smug and stuff, and I've managed to hold a stalemate with this guy, but I'm kind of like reaching my limit. The only thing that I have going for me is that when I was terrified when it first revealed itself, I just like completely fully collapsed, and it caused me to fall back on the one weapon I have, which is being able to project badass superiority, I'm awesome aura. But it's all just a bluff." And it's starting to falter at this point because I've just kind of like been staring at him really intently for about an hour, and now the spirit's getting confused and stuff, and it's like, yes, look, this is a joke. Like,
That's something, yeah.
Again, I don't know if this is a funny joke that can sustain a series.
Yeah.
But it's something.
You don't know if it's a funny joke, but you're like, I can taste, there is lettuce on this burger. Like, I can taste that there's lettuce, there are condiments put on it. This is pretty, the bun, it seems fresh. So, yeah, you know what? This is actually a pretty good burger, I guess.
And there's like a lot of humor comes from the unexpected. And this is not something you would look at just like, oh, it's an Exorcist comedy series and immediately predict what's going to happen. The spirit eventually is like, "So are you scared of me?" And he just is, "Maybe you're just not really actually strong. Maybe you're just bluffing." And so he goes as if he's going to slash at Kiyoshi, and Kiyoshi flinches, and he's like, "Oh my god, yeah, you're actually an exorcist who's scared of demons. All right, well, freaking die." And Kiyoshi immediately starts, don't do that, no. And the demon's like, are you okay?
But it's Pride Month. You can't do it to me during Pride Month.
And so the guy's like, "Why don't you just stop being an exorcist if you're not up to it?" He's like, "Oh my god, I can't do that now. Look, I tattooed a giant cross on my chest. I can't go back now." And he's like, "Well, some of them are okay tattoos. Oh, what's this one on your back? Oh yeah, it's like supposed to be like a challenge. So I've got like 666 across my back. It's supposed to be like, oh yeah, come at you. But yeah, it's like really cringe, isn't it?" And the demon's like, "Actually, that's not what I would be worried about. It's in Roman numerals, and so I can tell you wanted a bit like 6. That's the Roman numeral for 7, dude." So he got the number wrong. So yeah, Kiyoshi's like, "Oh," he didn't even realize that until now. So the demon just like drops this huge, hideous monster form, and he just looks like a guy. He's an older looking.
He's just like a dad. He's
a salary
energy.
man. Yeah. With little horns and come out from over his glasses. So he's like, "Yeah, did you know that like demons also have it rough?" He's like trying to comfort him and relate to him and stuff. And then he realized like, "Oh, I left the girl's body that you were exercising." And Kiyoshi's like, "Haha, I handled that." He's taking credit for it. So he's like, "Well, how'd you do that?" And Kiyoshi's like, "Once you started being nice to me, I wasn't scared anymore. So yeah, I was able to exercise you. So it's cool." And so the demon's just like, "Honestly, I don't really want to do this, possess people and everything. My name's Yamada. I work in the Demon Realm's Department of Water Resources, just as a desk job and stuff. And I suddenly just got this message from the great demon lord Meto that ordered me to the surface to possess this girl under pain of death if I failed." He's like, "I don't want to do any of this. I don't want the reward that comes with it. All I want to do is be able to go home to my family and ask what's for dinner at the end of my day." So he's just a guy. Kiyoshi also opens up to him and says that, yeah, when he was a kid, his parents were killed by demons. So the guy's like, "So you became an exorcist for revenge?" And Kiyoshi says, "No, I just don't want anyone else to have to go through that." That's why I want to become the kind of exorcist who can protect people from any demon. And it was around this point that I realized, wait a minute, this also isn't just a comedy manga.
Oh my god. Dimensions? Layers?
There's characters!
Mashal was kind of like this. Could this be Mashal?
So Kiyoshi says, like, yeah, I've been training really hard to be an exorcist for all my life, but I couldn't train bravery. I couldn't overcome my fear, so it feels like I'm never gonna be a good exorcist. And Yamada says to him, are you sure about that? If you were my son, I'd be very proud of you.
I'm feeling things while reading this? That's not just anger and boredom?
So Yamada says, like, I feel like you try your best, you face your fears, so that's not easy to do. All you need is a tiny bit of courage. When you're scared, try taking deep breaths. And they practice taking deep breaths together so that they can, so that Kiyoshi can master the exercise. And Kiyoshi's like, this is the best. And he's really, really happy now. And he looks at him, and Yamada notices he's looking at him kind of weird. He's like, what's up? And he says, I was just wondering if my old man were alive, if he'd be like this. Stop! Stop! Don't do this to me!
Nick's like, these fries are crisp. They're well salted. They're still good. Oh, I think I actually like this burger.
So Yamada turns to Kiyoshi and says, all right, exercise me. And Kiyoshi's like, but what about you? And he's like, look, don't misunderstand. This isn't pity. Like a low-ranking demon like me, I'm gonna get exercised by someone, so I'd rather it be you if it was gonna be anybody.
Yeah.
And Kiyoshi gets upset. He starts crying. He's like, I can't do that to you. And he says, Kiyoshi basically says, like, if demons are monsters who harm humans, then there aren't any demons here.
Aww.
So he just tells Yamada to go home. And he says, say hi to your son for me. So Yamada gets really choked up from this too. And Kiyoshi says he's going to go and report to the parents downstairs. But before either of them could take action, a creepy black goat suddenly appears in the room. Kiyoshi has no idea what it is, but Yamada is terrified as smoke suddenly billows out from it. A lightning crackles down from the sky, casts a hideous goat skull shadow across the floor that goes, kneel! And a bolt of black energy comes down, and Yamada says, I get it. He used that dispatch order to the surface in order to find a high-quality soul resistant to demons. And emerging from the black energy is the Demon Lord Meto, who is... I wouldn't wear that jacket, but I'm glad that he feels like he can wear that jacket.
I'm glad this is one of those things like, I'm glad you feel comfortable wearing this. Especially the, like, almost complete skull gas mask. Like, these are aesthetics that I will never pull off, but I'm glad you can.
Yeah. So, he says, it would be boring to only claim a young girl's life, so I'll just, kill everyone else here. Starting with this exorcist. But he looks a little bit around. Kiyoshi sees, and Yamada sees the, like, oh, he's just passed out from terror all of a sudden. So Meto tells Yamada to get lost, and Yamada's like, yeah, what the hell was I thinking? Whatever happens on the surface of that exorcist, that's none of my business. I just gotta get home, get out of here. But he remembers Kiyoshi being nice to him, telling him to say hi to his family, and he does a running kick to try and snap Kiyoshi out of it. And he's like, come on, you're supposed to be an exorcist who can protect people from any demon, right? And Meto realizes, what the hell are you doing? And so Yamada stands up to him and says, I'm not going to just leave this guy behind. I am a father, and if I left this boy to die, I wouldn't be able to face my son. So Meto says, you must be defective. Snaps his fingers. Yamada's body suddenly just splits in half, is ripped apart by some sort of invisible force. And Kiyoshi starts to flash back to his parents being butchered in front of him. and thinks to himself, why did I become an exorcist? What did I bother to train for if I can't protect others? I've got to move, but he's still frozen and can't get himself to act until he feels an encouraging tap on his elbow from behind as Yamada is still moving despite being ripped in half, and he says, it's okay. If anyone could do it, it's you. Remember, deep breaths. It gives him a thumbs up. Meto launches a follow-up attack. A massive blast of energy rips out the wall of the house, and he says afterwards, like, pathetic humans, goes over to the girl to get what he came for, but the smoke clears, and Kiyoshi is fully fine. His back tattoo is exposed as wind billows around him and whips his jacket back, and he has caught the black ball of energy that Meto blasted towards him, and he just crushes it in his hand. And then Yamada's healed. He's just suddenly fixed and back together. And Kiyoshi says, I took care of it, lickety split. This guy is such a dork. I love
he's a big dork.
But he takes a deep breath and he realizes, I finally figured it out. What's scarier than some demon? It's losing someone who matters to you. And he gestures toward Meadow the same way he did towards Yamada when he was bluffing him before and says, bring it. But this time he means it. Meadow calls upon a way bigger black ball to attack him. But Kiyoshi pulls his sleeves back, reveals tattoos on both of his arms, and he refers to them as Moonrise Kingdom. And he launches a burst of energy from one of them. It's like an arrow of light that blows Meadow's head off. He grows it back immediately, but Kiyoshi just blasts him again, keeps on casting destructive waves at Meadow even as he regenerates over and over again. And Meadow starts to get excited, like, oh, you are a worthy opponent. Yeah, come on. And then internally he says, hold on. This guy's kind of scary strong.
Wait a minute.
I'd love the sudden burst to the cartoonish style. It's good stuff. So he starts to talk trash. He says, I'm the Demon Lord Meto, the apex of the demon realm. And Kiyoshi calls on his energies again. These 4 moons appear above, below, and to either side of Meto. And he says, it doesn't matter if you're a demon lord. No matter what demon comes my way, I'll keep protecting others. And he crosses his arm tattoos over each other and they form a cross, which is so cool.
We're simple people here. It's pretty cool when your arm tattoos form something.
He says, I am Kiyoshi Harai, an exorcist. And as he crosses his arms over each other, the 4 moons blast beams of light that form a bigger cross that incinerate Meadow and turn him into a skeleton. Yeah. It's cool.
Cool stuff.
So there's a bit of aftermath after that. No one is hurt. The house is like ruined, but the girl gets to reunite with her family. Kiyoshi and Yamada get to relax a bit afterwards. They just go and chill on a bench somewhere. And he says, "Hey, are you going to be okay? What if word gets out to the demon world about what you did?" And Yamada says, "It's fine. Demons are pretty chill about that stuff." All right.
Yeah, I like this drop at the end. Like, don't worry about it.
But he expresses he's worried about Kiyoshi because you have defeated Meto, one of the 13 demon lords, one of the 13 ghosts of Scooby-Doo. Quinn.
Oh my God! Is one of them just a torso that walks around like the other 13 ghosts?
I hope so.
Yes.
And Yamada says the other demon lords are not just going to sit idly by.
Imagine? Because have you seen 13 Ghosts?
I'm sure I've seen every episode of it.
Well, I mean the movies.
Oh. No.
They're not related to Scooby-Doo. There's like a 13 Ghosts movie.
No, I've never seen them.
And I know there's like a remake where they're like stuck in a lab with like glass walls, so it's almost like a changing labyrinth. The only reason I bring up one of the ghosts is just a torso and arms that moves around. I was like, how fucking embarrassing does it have to be if you get killed by the fucking torso ghost? You're like, there was some scary fucking like executioner ghost with like 1,000 death blades or some shit probably, and you were like, nah, the fucking torso got me. I wasn't paying attention, climbed up and just choked me out.
There's always a joke, a way to die in any of those kinds of movies.
Yeah.
It's like that one guy, who got killed by the tiny dinosaurs in the second Jurassic Park movie. He's like, "What are you doing, dude?"
Was that the first one?
It was the second one.
Was it? Wow. Yeah.
So Yamada gives Kiyoshi this warning, and Kiyoshi says, "Hey, thanks to you, I figured something out. If I ever get scared, then I'll just take some slow, deep breaths." Aw.
Yeah.
And then we end the chapter on a bit of a ominous note, because there's like contact from that Kiyoshi gets from like Exorcist headquarters with a guy who has hair that's shaped like a massive cross. Okay, that's a choice. And tells Kiyoshi he's going to be assigned to Naraku City. And there is a moment where, like, because like early on in the chapter, Kiyoshi had said like why he hated his tattoos and regret getting them. He was like, I can't even go into a hot spring because, it would be so bad. But Yamada told him, hey, some hot springs are okay with tattoos. And he finds one that is, and he goes and chills out in the hot spring. Hey, good for Kiyoshi. And Yamada gets to go and be with his family. This would have actually been a really good one-off, honestly. Just a very nice, complete little story. But this does feel like it's got legs of some kind. There seems to be a big, obvious aim towards this being a comedic action series, like with a very heavy emphasis on that. And that can be tricky because, hey, writing comedy is hard.
Yeah.
But if the jokes can stay at the quality as they were in this chapter, then this should be okay, at least.
So I did enjoy this chapter like you did. Again, I'm not sure if it's because Yokai Buster Murakami is so unremarkable that like the direct comparison to Followed It immediately looks 1,000 times better, but I do think it legitimately had like pathos and like an emotional story to it that I was like, yeah, I like this. Like I feel like this was like a read as opposed to just like a single joke. I am curious to see what it's like in a longer thing, because part of the jokes in the first chapter is that what's his name is really afraid of ghosts, and now he shouldn't be, at least not to the same degree. So part of me is like, okay, do they have another joke they're gonna go to, or like what's gonna be the gag, like, or are we just gonna keep jumping back into that? So let's see. I think it should hopefully be enjoyable, but I'm going to have to see if like the next two chapters kind of stick any kind of landing as well.
I'm going to make a judgment call here because we are short on time due to technical difficulties before, and I'm going to get through the chapter of Murakami in less than 1 minute. The joke in this one...
Hold on, wait. Do you want me to time you?
Go ahead.
All right, hold on a second.
Yeah.
All right.
And go. Let's go to... Okay, let's go to the electronics store. Murakami likes electronics. Did you know that? He's going to bring it up constantly in this. A Tengu shows up. That's the second demon exorcist thing that they've got to deal with. And Murakami's thing isn't just so much busting the Tengu's ass specifically and calling him a pervert like in the previous chapter. It is just saying that he is inferior to all electronic devices of every kind. Doesn't have a care for any of his cool abilities. This seems like a weird thing that they're doing where it's like, hey, let's talk about the abilities of these spirits while saying while they're shit. It's an odd combination. Anyway, after Murakami constantly dunks on the yokai again, he decides to become a DJ. And so he does that. And for whatever reason, that also diminishes his spirit power. It's not like diminishing his confidence like before. It's making him feel happy. And so he gets sealed, but all of the people are still bullying Queen because they think that he's faking it because all of his exorcists are cards.
You were so close. You were so close, Nick.
Okay. Oh, well.
But
anyway, that's the chapter.
Unfortunately, you do miss out on the $2 million prize, but...
Fuck!
But you did recap the chapter very quickly, and that is appreciated by our audience.
If anyone is upset about that, sorry.
There's nobody. I mean, first and foremost, I don't think our audience they're usually pretty on our side with a lot of things, but I don't think anybody's sticking up for this series so far.
Yeah. Marriagetoxin,
Yeah.
Chapter 92. Last time there was a tense moment because Ushio cuddled up next to Gero
Yep.
because she really needed, like, some of that comfort. She says, while still curled up next to him, like, our relationship is strictly professional. And she says, I, was your enemy the first time that we met, and I attempted to harm you and your friends. And that's why I understand that the request I'm about to make is selfish. But just for tomorrow, will you please be my ally? And again, she seems so small and vulnerable while she's doing it. Like she's even like kind of like nervously shuffling her hands and feet together and stuff. While she makes a very like not big request of Ghetto, but she thinks that it's way bigger than he does. He's just immediately like, yes, of course. And he says, since that moment you helped me on Beast Clan Island, I'd already thought of you as an ally.
Aww.
And Ushio is flustered by this, immediately rolls to the other side of the futon, and she's like, you're really not thinking about your own gain at all, are you? And she's really, really happy that he's there with her. Isn't that sweet? Garrow's meanwhile just like, oh, thank God. Oh, I didn't know how I was going to handle the physical contact any longer. And then we transition very weirdly through a hole in the ceiling where they're being spied on by the burnt older brother of the Fire Clan, who is just staring down at them through a peephole in the ceiling, while also doing a handstand. Like,
I do need to be clear. So that's like a whole world of assassins and whatnot, and like, that's a giant hole to be peeking through. That is a very visible hole pointed directly over the bed. It would be almost impossible not to notice that.
Garrow can't sleep because, of course, he's just like, what the hell was all that? But meanwhile, Ushio gets up in the middle of the night and walks out of the bedroom. And when she doesn't come back for a little while, Garrow decides to go and look for her. And so he's wandering around this complex, and he goes through a door where he sees a number of bottles and containers containing all sorts of different fluids. And Haichi, the daughter of the clan head, is there. And she says, these are the Fire Clan's top secret specialties. Scorching Earth, a fortifying substance that activates the combustion glands to intensify one's flames. Forsaken Essence, a corrosive agent that thins out the skin's resistance to fire. Both uniquely sourced from this region alone. Garrow points out, like, are you sure you should, like, be sharing that information with me? But Haichi says, these have nothing to do with me. Women in the head family cannot inherit the clan techniques. Managing this room is my only role. It's all my life amounts to. So, yeah, she goes to leave him there, but she and Garrow spot that there are a couple of missing containers of Scorching Earth and Forsaken Essence. And we see that those have been taken by Haibu, the young son of the clan head that Ushio is going to be fighting in the morning. And he is at the battlegrounds digging up little holes in the ground and seemingly filling them with the substance while smirking evilly to himself.
Yeah.
Morning comes, and all of them are eating together, all of our good guy people. Kiyosaki is like, did something happen last night? And I was like, no! But they don't really focus on that very long because something's happening. There's a commotion, whispers and going on amongst the attendants. And a somewhat older woman approaches them and says, did you happen to see Haibu-sama anywhere? He's just missing. And like even Ushio and Kiyosaki and Gero all join trying to find him. They're like looking around the complex and like, okay, he knows he's supposed to fight Ushio. Where the hell is he? And Ushio dismisses the possibility that he would have abandoned this. So they're like, okay, well, we gotta find him because I can't get this fight out of the way if he's not around. Kinosaki spots a waterfall that goes over the side of the cliff, and she says, "There's no surviving a fall from here, is there?"
Interesting.
That seems like foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm.
But the woman who approached them before comes running up, and she says, "Haibu-sama at the grounds for the final bout." And we go to the final bout, where we knew Haibu-sama was before, and everyone is there. Attendants, the head family, and underneath the statue of the dragon, Haibu has been assassinated. It seems he's covered in blood, and he has been buried partially. It looks like in the same dirt that he was digging up before.
Or it's like his body's just exploded.
One or the other. It's a little hard to tell from the distance that we get a look at him. His body could have been blown apart, yes. The clan head demands to know who did it. And of course, this seems like it is an indication, Haibu said in the prior chapter that Ushio could only beat him if she cheated, if she did a sneak attack against him. And Ushio went missing in the middle of the night. So it seems like there is going to be some suspicion cast her way that she couldn't engage in a direct battle. But the exact little hints of what we got in this chapter are very interesting. And I look forward to seeing where they go.
Yeah. I think there's going to be doubt cast on her. They're going to find a way to put those Forsaken, whatever, the thing that thins out your skin resistance or something like that. But I think the most likely scenario, because it is very strange for characters to actually die in Marriagetoxin. Usually characters get protected to some degree. So my immediate thought is this is like an LMD or something, like the equivalent of a life model decoy. Like this is like a fake body, and everybody in the Fire family is working on this conspiracy.
Highly possible. Like maybe the dispute between siblings was all put on in some capacity or something
like that. That's where my immediate thought is going, but we shall see. I do love the idea of like a small little mystery arc, because it was like, this does feel kind of straightforward for the series at this point right now.
It makes it much more interesting.
Yeah, I like the wrinkle. New Exorcist, Nick.
New Exorcist, chapter 55, Gakuro back then. We get our chapter title drop immediately as Nue is on the phone with Heiichi, who says, "Hey, question, why didn't you stop Gakuro Yajima back then?" What she is referring to is when Gakuro broke out of the jutsu that was holding him down when they were facing off against on their last mission. So Nue is like, well, we can't count it yet, but Gakuro was reflecting quite a bit of my power then. Stopping him wasn't an option. When Gakuro got back up that time, he was shouldering my intentions and everyone else's. We swear, Gakuro is badass and cool and strong.
He's very
guys.
cool, guys.
Yeah. So Wanyudo is facing off against Gakuro, who is gone like, I'm dark and foreboding now. And he's like, this is weird. Everyone unleashes a lot of their power when they're near death, but he's way too calm considering that. And then he kind of ruins that moment by then going, hey, you're about to die and you're very calm. Why? Just says it out loud what he's thinking. So how Quinn, Gakuro's different now. He's different now. So what does he do?
He moves real fast and gets behind him and then immediately is countered.
Why does this... Is this like throwing shuriken in Naruto now? Like, this is the opening salvo that everyone does that never works.
Because here's the thing. When somebody doesn't do it, that's how you know that character sucked. Like, there's going to be a character who you are going to dash really fast behind, and they are going to get caught off guard and then just be murdered.
Juanito counters it. He launches a giant exploding spirit at Gakuro and is like, "Ha! Dodge this!" And instead, Gakuro, bah, hits it. And it doesn't explode. Ooh. So yeah, they run towards each other. More exploding spirits. Xenoblade. And he attacks Juanito from behind again, but this time with the Xenoblade, Quinn. It's different.
Yeah, it's different. You'd be stupid if he did it just the same way again, but this time he shouts out his move name before he attacks.
Absolutely. Juanito notes, he is observant. My destructive bombs have a 0.2 second lag before they explode. That seems like a fatal flaw.
That's a big problem in an explosion in a series where people have super speed.
Why would you? Why? So, Juanito counters the Xenoblade, but Gakuro just used this as an opening to go underneath it and grab him by the ankle and then throw him. And at first I was like, but why would you do that? You finally caught him. You should have struck him with your sword. And then they go, it's because he threw him where all his explodey spirits were. And I'm like, you have no reason to believe that will work on him. This dude sets off explosive spirits all the time.
Yeah.
Why do you think he would be vulnerable against them? Like,
whatever, sure.
Gakuro, from all of this, wound up with a wound in his side, and the guy managed to take a chunk out of him by snatching him, and Juanito goes, "I'm all warmed up now," and Gakuro's like, "Hey, he's unscathed." And then Juanito's like, "Let's speed things up," and he gets a bunch of black armor and aura and stuff, and he's suddenly faster now, and he's attacking Gakuro, and Gakuro's like, "Oh no, he's way too fast! His power, every attack I block feels like getting hit by a car!
I can't even dash behind him really quickly anymore!"
Then he thinks about Suo, and then he's like, "This is nothing, though!" It's like... he's mad because, dude killed Suo's fiance.
Yeah.
But then, all of a sudden, there is another explosive spirit that is behind Gakuro as he's trying to dodge backwards. And Juanito says, "That was a special-made time bomb. If you just had bombs that exploded on contact instead of 0.2 seconds after, you wouldn't need this. But okay, fine." So the explosion goes off, but then when the smoke clears, Gakuro's fine because Suo's Shikigami with its spiny talon things has shielded him, and we get a proper introduction to it, which is the imprisoning crown of thorns isn't just one Shikigami. In addition to the main body, several ribbon-like children come to dwell in its caster. They can be transferred to someone else. Every time they're attacked, they grow and help their host. Every time they're attacked, they grow?
Whatever.
How does that work? Fine.
I'm not questioning it. Let's see if it's relevant, and then I'll start following attention to it.
So, yeah, he attacks Juanito, uses his black wave of energy attack to knock him up against the wall. It's still not damaging him very much, even with the Crown of Thorns helping him. And Juanito's like, "What? That's it?" And then, boom! A dynamic entry! Suo bursts through the wall from the outside, and she says, "Follow my lead!" And they dash around him, and the guy is wrapped up in this Crown of Thorns stuff, so he can't move very well. And Juanito's like, "Hey, you can't get in. I don't know how you did this, but that's a foul. No." And Suo's like, "What do you gotta do? Blow up the hostages? I already killed all your bombs." He's like, "What?"
Yeah, we cut over to them, and I really wanted to care because the one little boy is like, "You saw them too, right?" I wanted the other one to be like, "Your pants are full of urine. You're drenched in piss."
And Money's like, "She can't have possibly dealt with them. She dealt with them." Yep. So now they're like, "All right, let's do it." And they attack together, and they chop Juanito's arm off because they attack it as one. So it's a stronger attack because they slash it at the same time. All right.
Cool.
That was a shonen action chapter. Okay, fine.
It wasn't bad. It's you know, I don't know why I'm talking. I want this podcast, so let's do Akane-banashi.
Story 115, a stand.
I only say that, by the way. I'm enjoying this podcast. My contacts are driving me fucking crazy right now, so I'm trying to get to the end.
It is approaching the end of Maikeru's story for his test to become a Shinochi, and there we get talk between the leader of the geisha house that's where he is visiting Koito, who is passed at this time, and she says, "Yes, the letters didn't reach you. It's been 21 days since her passing, and it is custom to offer up incense in her memory." And so he does this, and then he looks over in the corner and sees that there's a shamisen propped up there. The shamisen I ordered for Koito. And so while he's sitting there with the incense burning, some of the incense trails over to the shamisen and causes it to strum out. And in character, my character says, "She's playing my favorite song, Black Hair." And she is playing it from beyond the grave, and this is the musical accompaniment that in real life my character is receiving for it. And so everyone who had been like all frozen up and was just kind of waiting to see him fail is now totally enraptured. People are starting to cry in the audience over this, and we get a flashback to when my character decided to perform this story. He says, "I feel like this suits me. One stick of incense buys one performance. I like how the ending echoes the rules of the geisha world." And Shigema tells him, "Well, yes, but bright and silly stories suit you better." But my character says, "I'm the senior apprentice of Shigema the Tearjerker, master teller of Ninjo Banashi. There's no reason I shouldn't choose a Ninjo Banashi. It's why Aniki chose Shibahama for his story. This is me taking a stand, doing what's necessary to move forward." And as he's performing the story, he thinks to himself, somewhere part of me is waiting for Aniki to come back and join us here, even though I know he's gone down a different path.
Mm-hmm.
This is a stand. I can't just look back and drag that weight around with me. And he thinks about all the times that he and Shinta spent together as fellow apprentices, with, Toru looking after him. And Shigema gave him the advice, Ninja Banashi don't need lies. You put your feelings into the story as you tell it. And Maikeru, in character, while performing the Rakugo, says, "Koito, thank you for caring about a worthless man like me." Aww. And wouldn't you know it, Quinn? In the front row, Zensho says, "I knew it was a Ninja Banashi, and to think he'd use a tearjerker to express the breadth of his art. Yeah. Damn it! It's stupid! So stupid!" Fully crying.
I just love he's fucking falling apart. He's like, "God damn, I hate this. I hate that I love this shit."
And Shigema thinks about how, Maikeru has changed so much from when he first approached him, wanting to do, epic, complicated Rakugo from the very start right away. And he thinks to himself, no matter the result, Maikeru, I couldn't be prouder of you. And even he is also getting teary-eyed over this performance. In the story, the song ends, and the young master calls out to Koito saying, "Please keep playing your song," but the lady of the house says she won't. Look at the altar. The incense has run out. And Maikeru thinks to himself, it's time to move on from the past, from regrets, from my score to settle with that fateful day. I'm moving on from everything. And we get a last look at the story called Time's Up. And it's a very, very cool composed 2-page spread of modern Maikeru the incense and altar in the background, and the incense wafting all around. And through the incense, you can spot the past version of Mike Caro that he is bidding goodbye to.
Yeah.
And our last 2 pages are starting with douchebag journalist guy, and then fading out to all the rest of the audience, and then back to Mike Caro's point of view, everyone thunderously applauding.
Yeah.
That's our chapter.
Good time for him. I'm happy for Mike Caro. This is a very emotional little beat. I like that the story is doing. It's good stuff all around.
Isho just comes in and is just like, no, had musical accompaniment sucks.
I legitimately expect that to be the reason he fails him. He's just like, you couldn't do it without a song though, bitch.
Yeah.
Something like that. Probably won't call him a bitch. That seems mean, but he's a mean dude, I guess.
He is pretty mean. We'll see.
All right, Nick, let's wrap up Weekly Manga Recap this week by talking about One Piece chapter 1118, the most free. We get a cover page. Yamato is starting his journey across the city, or across the country, and he's eating a good little food, so we'll see some stuff soon. We open the chapter with the giant robot having been tossed aside, and it smashes through a bunch of Navy ships. We get to like the last little bits of the recording are still going, that name, but it's not transmitting anymore. And the robot starts to think, where did you go, Joy Boy? I want to see you. You were there, Joy Boy. Strange, so strange. It's sinking underneath the ocean. A bunch of Navy ships are now seeing the terrifying monster version of the Elders that are just like, what the fuck's happening on
What is that?
Yeah. We cut around the world. Various people are reacting to the fact that transmission cut out. They're like, wait, did somebody assassinate him? Did something happen? And they're like, well, he did say that he was going to talk about some risky things. But also people are like, if anyone assassinated him, it's probably the Straw Hats. The Straw Hats are there. So there's a bit of a mix of like different opinions. The 5 elders contact York and are like, York, how many Vegapunks are still alive? And she says the number of people accessing punk records is 2, Lilith and Atlas. Whether you want to take this as confirmation that Edison is completely dead, or maybe he's just completely indisposed of in some way, it's unclear, but it is worth noting.
Might just be disconnected, yeah.
Yeah, there are 2 basically people still out there. Lilith, who's with the Straw Hats up in the Labosphere, and then Atlas, who is with the Giant Pirates. So the 5 elders hold a little mental talk amongst themselves. They're like, should we kill them all? And they're like, yeah. Even with the Stella dead, punk record is designed to continue growing. And we have York, so we don't need any of the other ones. So let's kill them. Yep. The giant pirates get there. Dorian, Bragi, and Luffy arrive. They jump back on the ship. There's a bunch of celebration. Luffy is very cute because he's like, oh, this ship's huge. Is Usopp here? What about Chopper? He wants his buddies who he knows are going to be super excited about this to see.
They'll also nerd out about this. So come on.
Yeah. You might be wondering, like, well, what happened? Bluegrass and Doll were attacking the ship. Bonnie turned them into children, including the giraffe sea beast, which is so cute.
It's so cute. It's so adorable.
It's so goddamn adorable.
I like how it is more shocked than either of them are. It's like, what?
Yeah. Scream.
I'm not a biological being. I've never been this small before.
Yeah, I was certainly not a baby robot giraffe. Bonnie is just taunting them, just like, you mess with me, you're going to get in trouble. We have Nami contact the ship and is like, hey, we think thanks to Edison, we're going to be able to land in the water, but if it looks like we're not going to make it, help. And Sanji replies, don't worry. Even if everyone else sinks, I'll do everything I can to save you, Robin, and Lilith. And Usopp over the line's like, save us all. And I love Frankie in the background. It's like, don't worry, I'll rescue the ship. And he's like, no, all of us, you idiots.
Who's going to rescue Usopp? Is anyone going to volunteer?
Yeah.
Anyone?
Whose character gimmick is loving Usopp? Mars is coming in. They're like, uh-oh, we're going to have to deal with these elders. Cut over to Luffy. He's eating a giant feast prepared by the cook aboard the ship. And he's like, keep it coming. I'm going to really eat. The Mars is attacking the ship. It's seeming very dangerous. But suddenly there's an earthquake as the drums of liberation play, which means Luffy has activated Gear 5 yet again. Bonnie sees Luffy like this and is like, whoa, Nika. And Luffy, of course, is just like, who's that?
I don't know who that is.
And I love the Dory and Froggy are just like, it's the festival, where they're just fucking dancing. And someone has to be like, your ship's on fire, put it out. But Luffy's just like, let's go. You want to beat up these guys too? But she's like, I can't just look at them. And Luffy's like, I don't really know how your power works, but I bet you could do it. And she recalls how Luffy said, "This is what I look like when I'm free." So she uses it, distorted future, and she thinks of a future where she is the most free. And we very quickly get a shot of Kuma, who's indisposed of, unconscious, never really fully, it's unclear exactly, but he's thinking, "Don't worry, Ginny, I'll raise our daughter." And here she is, blossoming. She has envisioned a future where she is the most free, and she herself is Nika, and she has essentially duplicated Gear 5. She has the white hair. She has the awakened thing. It is very, very cool. Both of them are just bouncing. There's 2 drum beats going on. There's so much stuff. And Luffy's just like, "Yeah, let's fucking go." And the chapter ends.
Bonnie's like, "Yeah."
Yeah. The chapter ends with several of the elders being like, "We have to get there. There's a strange presence. Act quickly." But then we finally end the chapter on the robot sinking the ocean who says, "There." So finally, Nick, theoretically,
I was looking for Joy Boy.
Theoretically, this robot will finally do something besides walk around.
There were a lot of really nice little moments in this chapter. You know, the way that One Piece often is, where it's like, hey, we're cutting around between a lot of things really quickly and don't have a lot of time to dwell on some of them. But just like some of the stuff, like, you know, talking about, you know, hey, Bonnie just got these guys and turned the sea monster into a little kid too. The way that Dory and Brogg are reacting to stuff, the ominous note of like, they're gonna still be coming for the remaining 2 Vegapunks. And I'm like, no, we've lost so many good ones already though.
Pythagoras!
And then just the big cap of like fucking Bonnie duplicating Gear 5 because her weird powers can just do that.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see her, just like gaining the confidence. And, you know, she's been told like, you now have like an idea of like what the future really will be like, and her powers are diminished. And she's like, no, of course, what happens should happen, which is that she's inspired by the coming of Nika to fight again and be strong again, but in a way that I was not expecting her to, which is just, I'm going to do that too.
Yeah, I love how direct it is. I heard some people upset, like, online for some reason, that they're like, "Oh, she just got a power-up so easy," and I'm like, the entire time, all I could think is just like, I don't understand why Rey beat Kylo Ren, and like, I'm just like, fuck off. Like, I don't understand how you're a fan of this series, and you're like, this happened too quickly. They built this up for a while now.
Yeah, Bonnie is the main focus of this arc, if there is one.
Yeah.
It's nice that she got a really big cool moment.
And I don't know how you're not also like, this fucking rules. There's 2 Gear 5s. This is awesome.
It's because she's a girl.
That very well might be it. And that's sad.
All right. That is it for Week of Manga Recap, everybody. Quinn, tell me, what was your favorite chapter?
My favorite's One Piece and Bonnie. I have to take these fucking contacts out.
All right, go ahead. So my MVP is, yes, Bonnie, because she was this is such a nice, cool thing, and it's not even just the one moment that she gets. She also gets the, hey, she helped out in getting away by turning some of those Navy people into babies. Well, not babies. They're just children in this case. My favorite chapter this week was again Akane-banashi. It was a very satisfying conclusion to my character's telling. I like how the act of letting go and moving on was such a strong thing, you know, fully delving into like, hey, something bad happened here, and having regrets over the type of person that he was, and now saying like, I'm done and I'm moving on, because I can't just cling on to this idea that my big bro apprentice is going to come back. I've got a whole life ahead of me now, and that's, you know, the point of like what you do when bad things happen and you feel bad about the person you were when those bad things happen. That is it for the show. I do not know what the poll results were for our audience for favorite series and MVP. We might go over that when Quinn gets back, if she gets back in time for the end of the episode. But we want to thank everyone who joined us for the show here on twitch.tv/RoloT. We record here Wednesdays, usually at around 7:30 Eastern time. Although sometimes bad things happen when the recording happens. And Nick, for whatever reason, has a computer that decides not to work. And then when it does start working again, he can't figure out what changed. because that's the way things go sometimes. Thank you for putting up with that in this particular recording. We will be back again next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. If you want more Weekly Manga Recap, weeklymangarecap.podbean.com. We are also on YouTube, youtube.com/Weekly Manga Recap. Video versions have an opening sequence done for us by Marriagetoxin and Winston Cheddar. Thank you guys for doing that. The episodes also occasionally have title cards done by Steve Man, whose artwork you can check out by searching for Steve Man Art all across the interweb. Ninja X3I helps to maintain a buttload of information associated with the podcast. Prior voting, prior series that we have covered, there is a running list of recommendations that people are adding that they would like us to talk about in the future, and you can add your vote to that or add your own series if no one has recommended it yet, but you want to see us talk about that. By the way, Quinn, what was the audience picks for this week?
I don't know. You'll have to look at the spreadsheet. That's it for the episode, everybody. Have a good one.
Fine.
I'm sorry.